We have an expert with us who will be attempting to answer this burning question. It is an absolute honor to bring to stage Mr. Takafumi Horii, Cluster Head Middle East, Takeda Pharmaceuticals, FC & Co. Please put your hands together, everyone.
Good morning. Thank you very much. I just want to start with some questions to the audience. So I know that how many of you from a pharma industry. I would like to also ask how many of you from medical device? Raise your hands. Okay. How many of you from startups or digital companies? Great. How many of you is in investment? Some of you, great. I think being in the healthcare industry, I think one of the key questions we always ask is about what we can do more for the patients. So today, it's my pleasure to just share the pharma sector perspective, particularly in my company Takeda, in the next 20-30 minutes. Unfortunately, I didn't have any great movie or music like Michael, but I hope you can also share, enjoy some of the perspective from my sector. Okay, so I just ran that it is now broadcasting over the YouTube, so I would like to just mention that pretty much my presentation today is public information, but if you have any questions, please catch me later so that we can have a further dialogue with you. Okay, just quickly like to introduce myself. I don't know where the... Okay, so currently I'm working for Takeda. It's been already 11 years and I had an opportunity working for 7 different countries, particularly in 2 dimensions. One, I spend around 70% of my role in a strategy, in a corporate level, regional level, and then also country level, in multiple different countries. And then also in the last 4 years, I was managing as a general manager or regional head, particularly in emerging market countries, including China. It's not easy to adjust. Maybe somebody can help me. Next slide. Is that okay? All right. So today I would like to have a quick 3 topics. Quick introduction about my company, and then also I would like to also share what's the global pharma industry trend, especially focusing on the future. And then lastly, I would like to also share our company's approach, serving for the patients. Okay. Particularly in our industry, normally we are developing and then delivering our medicine, but we also like to touch about the beyond medicine part. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, so Takeda, in one word, we are very much patient-focused, value-based, R&D-driven global biopharmaceutical company. I think what's interesting is we are already 238 years old. I think some of you know, for example, the company from Japan, such as Toyota. Toyota is 80 years old. So we are over 2 centuries. We are focusing on and then we start to over 200 years ago to providing Chinese herbal medicine. So we have been transformed significantly in the last 200 years to meet patient unmet medical needs. Yeah. So we have a lot of changes, but one thing we have not changed over 200 years is our values, our corporate values, which is integrity, fairness, honesty, and perseverance. I think we are really serious about these values. And then there is one thing we will not... We will not deviate it from any acquisition or merge happens. This value will not change. And also, I would like to mention about our priority. I think this patients, trust, reputation, business, this order is quite important for us for our daily decision making. Okay. We are now focusing on a 6 area from our R&D perspective. As a company who are really trying to bring the innovation, we are focusing on oncology, gastro, rare disease, and neuroscience. Plus, we also focusing on the plasma-derived therapies and the vaccines. These are the 6 areas we consciously choose to invest for our futures. I don't know how many of you know about the typical Japanese company, but the one thing I'm really proud of is our diversity of our executive leadership team sitting in the globe. We have 11 different nationalities. It's a nice mix of the genders, and then people is locating in Japan, US, and Switzerland, and Singapore. I think the diversity is really creating the new idea. So we are really embracing this diversity across the globe. From the size of the business perspective, we are actually around 30 billion business now in annual sales turnover. As you know, pharma industry is highly dependent on the market in the US, because the market share in the US is actually roughly around 45% of the global pharma industry. So likewise, our revenue is also came from US, plus some of the countries, Japan, Europe, and Canada, and then emerging markets. We also have 2 key locations. One is, of course, global headquarters in Tokyo, but at the same time, we also have a big global hub in Boston and Cambridge area, where a lot of great scientists and then a lot of innovation happening in our industry. I just want to touch a little bit about my current region. I'm now in charge of Middle East. I'm looking after 17 countries, which represent around 610 million populations, which is quite significant. In terms of the healthcare spending percentage of the GDP, it's around 5.3% on average in our regions, which is slightly lower than the average of the OECD countries, which is around 8 to 9%, which means we believe there is a lot of area to improve to provide and invest to the healthcare in our Middle East region. The pharma market size is around 30 billion. I think it's quite sizable market, and it's growing. When it comes to our company, we are around 300 employees. Focusing therapeutic area is pretty much what I explained: gastro, oncology, immunology, hematology, and then genetic disease. What excites me is actually we are going to have over 50 new product launches in the next coming 3 years. So that's really, we call it the happy headache, because we have a lot of things to do to make sure that we can bring our new medicine to the patients. So given we have so many countries we are looking after, we have a lot of partnership across the different countries. So we have over 40 distributors and then some partnership to supply our medicine to the patients. Okay, so let's move to the global pharma industry trend. So this is the information provided by Evaluate Pharma. If you look at the past 5 years, our industry in pharma grew around 3%. But if you look at the next 5 years, actually we expect around 6% growth towards the 2025. And then interestingly, if you look at the breakdown of this incremental contribution of the growth, which is not necessarily coming from the big multinational pharma company like top 10, top 20. It's actually the biggest incremental value came from the startup or some of the smaller companies. I think this is something really I want to mention here. But at the same time, if you are in the pharma industry, in the next 5 years, it's really bright because we are actually double the next 5 years for our growth. Yes. Let's look at the pharma market size and growth by therapeutic area. So if you look at the y-axis, it's actually the future growth, and then the x-axis, you can see the past 5 years growth. And then obviously, the one of the highest growth plus the biggest size of the therapeutic area is oncology, which means we still have a lot of unmet medical needs in oncology. The one highlight in red is actually the therapeutic area where Takeda is now focusing, but there is a couple of other therapeutic areas which is also expecting a high growth. Yes. So let's drill down a little bit details. On your left-hand side, you see the revenue by technology. I split into the two different buckets. One is a conventional therapy, and then a biotech. And then obviously, as our trend now, we are shifting even more to the biotechnology for the future trend, which is clearly, you can see that. On your right-hand side, you also see some breakdown within the biotech. Currently, obviously, monoclonal antibody and then recombinant is the key major therapy technology within the biotech. However, in the future, we are also observe the small growth from gene therapy, cell therapy, DNA, and RNA therapies. So if you look at the focusing on this new generation of therapies, which is our future, as you see, we are seeing by 2024, it's going to be around 45 billion US dollars as a market growth estimate. And then if you look at the right-hand side, the revenue growth of the monoclonal antibody, which is also reaching $240 billion. So if you look at these trends, we are expecting this new therapy, new way to serving for the patients is going to be one of the major medicine in the coming 5 to 7 years. Okay. Today I saw a couple of people who are from the startup or digital industry. I see also a lot of agenda of the digital. So I will not touch much in my presentation, but I also would like to learn from you. Obviously, digital trend is another big wave from a patient empowerment perspective, nanotechnology perspective, bionics perspective. There is a lot of things happening in the digital industry, so I also would like to learn from you guys about in the coming 2 to 3 days. So based on this global pharma trend, what is Takeda is doing in a way we are serving for the patients? So 2019, this year, was a very, very exciting and then a special year in the history of 238 years in Takeda. In January, we closed the acquisition of Shire, which is $62 billion deal. I think this is one of the biggest M&A in our industry, 2019, where we are acquiring 18 assets in a clinical pipeline. And we also add in our rare disease as one of the key therapeutic area. And then also we acquire the world-class gene therapy capabilities with combined company. I think this is one of the things we prepare for the next 5-7 years. The second things, we also expand our business to the globally. Especially what's exciting me was we are expecting 15 new molecule approval in China in the next 5 years. And then the last but not least, as an R&D based pharmaceutical company, it's very important to be in to really progressing the pipeline. So we have 17 NMEs in phase 2 and phase 3. And then we also have a lot of new therapies and momentum in cell therapies as well. Especially recently we announced our new partnership with the MD Anderson in the United States. So this is the one of the key things happening in 2019 in our company. Yeah, so I already mentioned about our core therapeutic area. So what we are doing now for the patients from an R&D perspective, I would like to focusing on a couple of key points. First, I would like to reiterate the future trend, which I share with you. The future, a lot of we need to diversify our modalities in research. So we are actually now focusing on the biologics, but at the same time, we are investing heavily to create a good platform in cell and gene therapies, as you see. And I think at the end of the day, it's all about people. So we have around 4,500 our scientists, which is very much top-notch scientists, mainly sitting in Japan and then also in the US. They are making efforts on a daily basis. And then last but not least, I would like to also mention about our partnership, because if you remember the first slide I shared, the growth is not necessarily coming from the large pharmaceutical company like us. So we are not focusing on in-house research, but also we are focusing on the collaboration with academia, startup companies, and then some other companies as well. So these are the things we are now focused to really bringing future innovation to the patients. So having said that, I'd just like to share the recent update in our pipeline. We call it the wave 1, wave 2, if you look at our pipeline. So we call it wave 1 in the next 4 or 5 years is the immediate contribution to the patients and in our business. So that's why wave 1. But at the same time, as you see the wave 2, we are very much confident that we have so many exciting platforms, such as cell therapy, target therapy, next in gene therapy as well. We are now developing the new way of curing the disease for the next coming 7-10 years. So if you look at this dotted line, in red dot line, these drugs is called the orphan drug designation. So we are focusing on a very particular patients, because these patients does not have necessarily have the appropriate the solution at this point of time. So we really raise our bar in R&D to try to meet our unmet medical needs. So as a result, we are very excited to see the recent report published in 2019 this year from a top 10 pharma companies in terms of size of the pipeline. So we are now positioned very well within the pharma industry. So we hope we can accelerate this development towards the future. So we talk about the medicine now. So I would like to move to another initiative which we are running beyond medicine, because as a pharmaceutical company, we can bring the new medicine. It's just normal obligation as our responsibility, but we want to do more. So we have been discussing and then, came up with the couple of programs to really serving for the patients. So first, because we are now here in Dubai, United Emirates, I would like to start with the very exciting MOU I have been signed recently in this year with MOH in UAE government. So I have two MOU. One MOU is called the Home Care Program, SAWA. This program is basically supporting the patients for rare disease, such as primary immunodeficiency patients. For example, these patients, they need to go to the clinics or hospital 3 times a week. It requires a lot of burden to the patient and the family. But we are to accommodate this, to reduce their burden. We are now preparing and then launching some of the different way to bring our medicine, such as subcutaneous, which is self-administered. You can do it at home. And then we have a less frequency to inject these medications. But it's not easy for the normal patients to take care of themselves for the injections. So we developed and then working with a third party to come up with the program to support the patients. So this is the one of the program we developed and then we endorsed by the government and then implementing now. The second program I also like to share is the Patient Assistance Program, which is addressing a financial affordability issue and the patients even in UAE. There is a couple of patients where they don't have enough financial affordability to get our medications. So we are coming up with the program which we can support and then try to make our medicine available to the patient who are needed for these medications. So those are the two programs we are actually implementing here in UAE. And then actually this kind of program, we are trying to expand our reach to the more countries. Currently, out of 17 countries, we are implementing 4 countries, 3 countries in addition to UAE. The first is the Lebanon, and then also we implemented in Egypt, and then recently we just launched in Kuwait as well. So we hope we can create the bigger value to the patients, not only the innovative medicine, but also these programs which we can do more for other beyond medicine activities. Okay, so I think I saved some time for the next presenter. This is what I would like to share today. And then if you have any questions, happy to take some questions, or you can talk to me later. Thank you very much.
Ohayou gozaimasu, Haroi-san. Manish.
Ohayou gozaimasu.
3 questions. So the first one is on the growth of the pharmaceutical industry. As we said, next 5 years, we're going to see, instead of 5%, we might grow 6%, yeah? The global pricing pressure is 20% reduction in every country trying to reduce the price of generic medicine, more use of generic medicine, and cost of biologics are so high. So when you say that growth will be 6%, that the totality of the growth, or you are talking about just from the new medicine?
Thank you for the questions. My understanding, the report generated by Evaluate Pharm is a total pharmaceutical market. That's a quick answer. And then I can just add some comments. You are definitely right. We have a lot of pressure in terms of the pricing in our medication. But at the same time, there is a tremendous effort in a lot of countries where the government is trying to improve the overall healthcare system and then access to the medicine as well. I just pick up the example in Egypt. This year, they recently made a big announcement about their vision of 2030. Within this 2030 vision of Egypt, the healthcare is one of the key pillars to drive their countries, improve their infrastructure. If you look at the current situation of Egypt, the market is still, I would say, very much out of pocket, which means they don't have enough healthcare insurance or universal health insurance like a country in GCC. So, but I'm sure that with these efforts in the next 5-10 years, the overall infrastructure is going to be improved across the globe, especially in the emerging market where we have a lot of population, young population, growing population. The government is trying to make more effort to cover. So I think there is a pressure and a generic as well, but at the same time, there is a lot of elements which we boost our overall industry. I think that's a combination of the both.
Thank you. Second question, as you said, as Takeda being R&D company is going to focus on gene therapy, biotechnology, and looking into the more and more cell therapies. And congratulations to Takeda for Entyvio, for example, for inflammatory bowel disease. At the same time, in the emerging markets, the cost of those biologics is beyond affordability. So what is your view on the introduction of the biosimilars, its extrapolation, as well as the totality of the evidence when it comes to the approval pathway of the biosimilars?
Thank you. Thank you very much. You are recognizing our one of the great medicines, which is very impressive. To answer your question, I think for me, if there is a value to the patients, I think, and then this is something which each authority accept, the physician accept, and all the consensus has been done. I think it's good. Yeah. We are not able to comment on the other companies' biosimilar because we are focusing on our medicine. But I think in general, I think there is a way to serving for the patients.
Thank you. Last one. My apologies being difficult here. The last question is, I want to touch base on the new gene therapy, which is CRISPR, yeah? And CRISPR have proven amazing result by Novartis, 2 genetic treatments where people with the spinal cord injury were able to walk and living a normal life. But the cost of those medicine is $200,000 per year. So how these cell therapies and the gene therapies and the therapies like CRISPR will provide access to the governments where we can prove they are cost effective enough so government can reimburse those medicines?
Yeah, I think your question is a $1 million question. If I have an answer, probably I will not going to be here. I think this is the homework we should do as an industry or society. I think we need to come up with some answers to provide or justify the new area of the medicine. But if you remember, not only pharma industry, because we have a lot of friends here beyond the other pharma industry, there's always a case that when the technology is disrupted with a disruptive innovation, there's always change of the pricing and in the way we are behaving. Even for the iPhone is a great example. We don't have a smartphone over 10 years ago, but we are now without a smartphone we cannot live almost. So I think we need to find a way how we can make these new therapies available to the patients. There is a lot of studies ongoing from a health economics perspective. So we hope we can study together, not only one company, but as an industry or society, how we can bring the new innovation to the patients.
Dom, arigatou gozaimashita.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, sorry, this will be the end for the Q&A session. Always remember you can meet Mr. Takafumi in person and ask him all the questions that you'd love to ask, because we're going into the awards session now.
Thank you very much.